Well, we have had law enforcement to attempt to take action once we received the okay that we could go in the beginning and shut them down. So we did support that happening. I think the question came up before about us taxing them, and that's something that we cannot do legally. That's something that's being investigated. We have other cities who have taxed a lot of the gaming places, and now they're having to pay those funds back. So we did not want to be in a situation as a city to pay them back. But yes, I do support making sure that we do what we can to have them doing what they're supposed to do legally, because if we didn't have them, it would be better for me. But I can't stop someone from doing the legal thing if they're running their business the way they should. So we have put some restrictions in place so they won't be next to churches, they won't be next to schools, and they won't be next to daycares and things of that area and some of the low-income neighborhoods. So we have done that, we have supported that, and I stood on that strongly. Well, I have not received feedback from other churches on what to do. I think the major issue with one church that did come was having them located directly across from their church. So it was two churches that did come, and the person withdrew the request to have the gaming center next to that church. So we have put some stricter rules in place about where they can be located. So we've done that. And one time we did get the word that we could have them to be shut down, and we sent our police and the sheriff department in to do so. But then shortly after, within about, I think maybe 2 weeks, the laws changed where they could change how they were running the gaming machines, and then we could not go in and enforce anything according to how they changed it, as long as they were following the rules. Now, the question did come up one time about can we tax them heavily, and it has been stated other cities in the past have taxed them heavily, but they have been found guilty of overtaxing, and they had to pay that money back as a city. So we can't do that. We're not trying to get into the business of paying people back. So we are doing everything that we can to make sure that we keep them doing what they need to do and making sure they're legal. And I went inside them just so I can see what they look like and what they do, so that once we start looking at different things, we can strategize as much as possible to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. Because I don't like the fact of having so many of them that popped up all over the city, and that's why we put those regulations in place, because I don't think we've had a request since then, because they have not been as easily accessible to pop up because of those restrictions. Fault to make sure we put as many restrictions in place according to our city attorney, because they were opening them up next to low-income neighborhoods, and they were trying to prey on those people who already were in a very tough situation. So we found out what we could do to make it as strict as possible through our city attorney, and we enforce those. And I agree with you, I do not like it. That's why I don't go in and use them myself. And what am I going to continue to do? I'm going to continue to make sure that we enforce it as much as we can according to the laws and regulations of what we can enforce. I will continue to do that. And thank you for asking that question.
I don't gamble. I had a paper route when I was a kid. Went to a pool hall, and them pool hustlers hustled me out of my money. I quit gambling at that time, so I don't believe in any type of gambling. Sorry.
I don't personally plan to raise that again, no. If that's raised by one of my peers, then that has to come to the council. Again, I state that other cities have charged those excessive fees, and they've had to pay those back. So as a city, I don't think it's good business for us to charge someone, get that money, operate off that money, and then have to pay that back. So will I personally bring that back up? No. And from my understanding, that was not brought up by the mayor. So I think people need to be clear on that. If people say he's had ties or whatever, I mean, that's their personal opinion. I don't know where they get their information from, but I think that was brought up by Councilmember Joyner, and he was the one that first started discussing that and having some issues with that because of putting a business out of business by raising excessive fees. So I'm not really sure about that part and about the ties, because I'm not involved in all that extra stuff that other people are doing. I just make sure I make my decisions based on the research, and the research shows they had to pay back. So if a peer wanted to bring that up, I guess we'll discuss it again, but not me personally. And thank you so much for asking that question.